So welcome to the information session around the application process for this next year's DIP, HE and Paramedic Practice programme. I am Karen Hamilton, I'm the programme lead here, and yeah, I'm hoping to give you some advice around the process and just to be able to answer any questions more than anything else. Sometimes I think when you see the information on the application process, you just want a bit of a face to clarify the things that you're reading there. So that's the purpose of it. We're going to look at who can apply, just around the recruitment dates, just a bit of information about the programme, just to let you know what it is that you're actually applying for and what you're signing up for. We'll look at the application process, this endorsement form and what you need to do. I'll give you some advice just on the application form and talk through how I will shortlist them. A bit of information about the OSCE and really just where to access all the support and guidance and information. So, who can apply? IHCD, no, not just IHCD qualified technicians, sorry, scrap that. All qualified technicians can apply, whatever route they've come through. So, students who came through the IHCD route, students who came the IHCD route with Module J, people who came through the IHCD route and have done the week's course here, and I'll give a bit more information about that. People who did the Year 1 course here, our Certificate in Ambulance Studies, and also people who came through the VQ course to reach the VQ4 level of technician. For the first time this year, student technicians can apply. They have to meet certain criteria if that is the case. Is anyone in that position? Yeah, right. I'll chat through the process. So, for student technicians, they have to have had a minimum of 8 months since their course started. They need to have completed their 5-month review and have that signed off. There needs to be evidence that they are going to progress. So basically, there's no point in someone applying if it's not likely that they're going to complete the course on time. And they also need confirmation from the CAVA assessor and the education department that they will complete their portfolio within the year. There are some slight differences around those student applications, so this is just really a chance to clarify for everyone. Those student applications will be held in a pile until all qualified staff applications have been dealt with. So they will be processed, shortlisted, go through the OSCEs, etc. And if at the end of that process there are spaces left on courses, that's when we'll start looking at the student applications. It's just about making the best use we can of the available spaces. You'll all be aware of the changes that are coming up and the kind of limited spaces that will be available left over. So it's just about making sure we get the appropriate people into the spaces that are available. So, for IHCD technicians who have not yet completed Module J, we run a week's course here. Is anyone in that position? You are, great, okay. So, that week's course is basically a Module J version. We've adapted it slightly and it's basically intended to bridge that gap with some of the teaching content that should have been that should be covered to be able to get you onto Year 2 of the programme. Yes, yep. I think it's had a number of different names and a lot of different times, so yeah.
And it's over a week now?
Yes.
Apparently it used to be over 6 weeks or something, did it? Separate nights or something like that over a period?
Not sure about that. No, I haven't heard of that one, but it could be something different.
What about people who the applications are obviously open from this week?
Yep.
So what about people who are in that position? Are they going to be able to apply at the moment and be accepted pending this course?
Yes, yep, and that's basically how it works. So basically, we will, any IHCD person who applies, I don't know if any of you have gone as far as clicking on the application form yet, but we've categorised people. So anyone who's done IHCD but not completed Module J or this course will basically be offered a space on it, regardless of whether they get shortlisted and get through the OSCE or anything. We're hoping this will be the last time that this course runs, so that's why we're just going to offer it to everyone who applies, and then once it's done, and whether that's this year or next year that it's available for, it can be done. So that course is a week-long course here. There is a Viva on the Friday, so just a verbal exam talking through some case studies that with the content that we've spoken about during the week. And then there's a 500 word assignment that is due 4 weeks after that course finishes. That's just about really introducing some of the academic writing skills, starting to think about university styles of writing, starting to think about how you might be assessed in the modules that are coming up. So it's really giving a bit of an idea about what's going on as well as covering the content. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You mentioned the list of options that you can select from for both course you've done.
Yep.
There isn't an option for BQ.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well.
Is there not?
No.
I will follow that up. I don't know why. That's fine. So there's no option for VQ as a qualified technician. Okay.
All the other ones that you've mentioned.
Just not the VQ. Right, that's great. I'll follow that up. I think that's an easy fix. I think it's technical. I'm sure it is, surely.
Yeah, is there an alternative that we can put in? Because it won't allow you to like free text or anything either. It only gives you the drop down menu.
My team leader said to put ambulance studies in.
So yeah, it's just
Certificate of ambulance.
just in case it's not like rectified by the time we need to.
I'll phone this afternoon. I can only, if it's not, pick one, I suppose. Yep, certificate in ambulance studies. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what the closest to the
They're probably not. That's why we're trying to categorise them all because they're all so different. I will try and check that. Thanks. Cool. So applications are open from Friday until the 1st of November. After that, shortlisting will be done, and then the OSCEs will start from the 22nd of November. For people who are shortlisted, they'll be asked to book themselves into an OSCE slot. They take place on Fridays in lots of different locations around the country, so people are just asked to basically book a slot that time suits them and the place suits them. And I'll chat a bit more about the actual OSCE itself. These course dates are on they're not on GC Learn, they are on at SAS in the application bit. We have been quite clear on the dates this time because people are being asked to negotiate with their manager about what dates they would be able to release them for at this stage rather than later on in the process. So the courses are both parts are 100% attendance. So a bit of it is about when you're available and when holidays or other things are going on. That needs to be worked in too, but also a bit of it is about when your manager could technically release you. This second part, just to point out, everyone attends for the first 4 weeks and then we split the class in half. So some will attend in week 5 and some will attend in week 6. That's just basically for logistical purposes of OSCEs and things like that. So yeah, that's it. 4 cohorts, up to 50 students per cohort is what we've got planned for next year. How does the course actually run? So it's the DIP-HE in paramedic practice. After successful completion, that will qualify you to apply to HCPC to register as a paramedic. It is run by the Ambulance Academy, we are part of the ambulance service. Our course is accredited. Our course has to follow the rules of GCU, so we kind of work between the two, and we're bound by their guidelines, their criteria, and all these types of things as well. So we work quite closely with them too. It involves 2 5-week attendances at GCU, and in between times there are practice placement hours required. So practice placement being with a paramedic, and you'll also do hospital placements within that as well, and they all count towards your 750 hours over the year. Hi. There are assessments throughout the year, and I guess this is just a chance to point out the different competing priorities there will be over the next year, starting from whenever you start. So just grab a seat anywhere. So there are exams, written assignments, an academic poster, the practical OSCEs, which I think most of you will be familiar with. I think it's a kind of new term, but it's basically what we did at Barony. Same thing, all right. With a little bit more with a bit more ceremony and paperwork around it. Okay. Practice placement for portfolios, that is the bit that you do when you're out doing your 750 hours. And yeah, there's lots of different things to think about, lots of different times that you have to get things done by. So I guess it's just about being aware that when you start this course, it's a full-on year, and so be ready for that. If now's not the right time for you, then this is your chance to just have a think about where that fits with your life. Because if we could all just have a year out of life and come and do a paramedic course, that'd be great, but that's not how it all works. So just for your information. The application process this year is that you first of all have a chat with your line manager to get this endorsement form signed, a discussion to happen on various things, and we'll talk about that. The application form, the applications will all then be shortlisted, and those who are shortlisted will be asked to come to an OSCE, pass the OSCE, then you'll be allocated a space on a course, okay? So the endorsement form should be completed by your team leader or ASM, basically a line manager who knows you enough to be able to have a useful conversation with you. There's no point in finding someone who's just going to sign that piece of paper. This is a chance for you to have a think about where you're at in terms of your progress. And yeah, so find someone who you know fairly well. There is a guide for them on ATSAS should they not have done it before or be a bit unsure about it. So they can have a look at that. The discussion with them should involve basically your application. You're looking for endorsement from them to support your application. And if they're saying that you're not suitable at this point in time, then that's your chance to start a conversation about what is it that I do need to do, what do I need to be thinking about to get myself ready for the next run of courses, basically. So it should be a two-way discussion. That's also the opportunity for you to have a chat about how that works with your shift position, with a relief, with the station that you would be working at, and that sort of thing. And mainly it's about discussing course dates and trying to negotiate between you when they might release you and when you would feel ready to be released as well. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. The application form. I know these are the basics, but just start with getting the details right in the first place. Accurate details, contact details. It's that stuff that we will put on. The GCU will contact you using those. Just come and grab a seat, thanks. GCU will contact you using whatever details we get from this application form, so just take a bit of time to make sure they're definitely correct. Your CPD statement, I'll give a bit of guidance on, but it's just to point out that a good CPD statement is you've read and checked all that guidance information that's on ATSAS, basically. It'll be assessed during shortlisting, and it'll be assessed using that marking criteria that is on ATSAS. It's also on the application page. So please have a look at that. The easiest thing to do is to have a look at it, get an idea of what it is you think we're looking for, go away and write it, and then go back and just double check that you've definitely met all those criteria. Those are good habits to get into because they're the sort of things that we use for marking assignments and things like that as well. So it's good practice, if nothing else. So your CPD statement, this is the thing that we will use for, that's what we'll use to determine whether you're shortlisted or not. We have gone with HCPC's criteria for CPD because that is what we will all be doing once you're registered as paramedics. And it's also just gives us some clear guidance for people as well. So HCPC, look for evidence of what activities you've done within the last 2 years. So try and keep it quite focused on those 2 years. And HCPC also asks for you to have done at least one activity every 2 months. So the range of activities, I guess, is the other thing I want to pick up on. I think in the ambulance service we've got quite a fixed view of a CPD activity as going to a CPD event and turning up on that day. Going to a training course and all these types of things, but actually CPD can be a whole lot more than that. So there is a big list of it on HCPC's website, but it can include things like reflective practice, like attending a job and going away and reading a journal article about something, reading up on a condition that you attended a patient and you had no idea what it was. All of these types of things still count as CPD. So it's just about trying to think broadly. Don't think that we're only looking for a list of courses you've been at. Okay. The other thing about that is that for each activity, we're looking for a reflection on it. A certificate that I went to a CPD night just says I turned up. I might have slept through that whole entire thing. I might have learned something, but the certificate doesn't evidence what I've learned. So, a brief reflection, a paragraph that says what I've learned, a paragraph that says how that'll impact on my practice, and that's my evidence that I have actually learned something from it. My biggest advice is be specific. So I do reflective practice. That just says I know the word reflective practice. I attended a job where a patient was having an MI. It turned out it was a posterior MI and I hadn't seen that before. That's getting more specific. So what I did was I went and read this journal about it and I asked a colleague about it and we had a conversation. And so that's making it more specific. That's evidence that I have actually done something instead of just knowing the words reflective practice. So try and be as specific as you can with each of your learning activities. Any questions on the CPD statement?
So if you're looking for kind of 12 pieces of CPD evidence, how do you squeeze that into 500 words? That's what it specifies on the application.
It doesn't specifically say 500 words, it says roughly 500 words, and that's just as a guide. So last time we were getting like a couple of lines, so that was really as an indication of 500 words minimum. Okay, there are 2 boxes on the application form, so if you need more space you can carry it over. I guess part of the skill is picking out the key bits of information to give, and yeah, all right, cool. Anything else? Cool. We'll ask at the end of any course to you, that's fine. So after shortlisting, next thing is the Tech to Parrot OSCEs. Now, we have changed the OSCEs this year based on feedback from previous students and from staff. And really we've looked at trying to make the OSCEs ensure that people are better prepared by the time they get to the point of coming on the course. So we now have 3 elements to the OSCE, 3 separate stations, and you will rotate round each of those. All the information is on AtSAS. There are videos to go on AtSAS within hopefully the next couple of days. And they give information on each of these, but for now we do have the check sheets that you can start using. So the airway management, there are 5 separate skills and 2 of those will be selected at random on the day. So you might be asked to insert an OPA and to manage a noisy airway. Okay, these are just the types of things we would do. The next station would be an A/E assessment, where we were looking for your detailed and thorough A/E assessment. And then the third station, depending on what order you get taken in, is ILS, and then the initial stages of ROSC management. So once that patient gets a ROSC, what are you going to start assessing? What order are you going to do these types of things in? The marking grids are on AtSAS. I would be recommending printing those off, start having a look through them yourselves. When you're practicing, you can be asking colleagues to tick off the sheet with you as you go, or use them for your own practice yourselves. But they are there as a tool to make sure that you know everything that you're being expected to do when you come in to the OSCE. Okay. Any questions about the OSCE?
See the AE assessment,
Yeah.
will be given a condition, I take it? Just be a run through AE or...
Yep, so you'll be given a patient and you'll imagine yourself doing that. Yes, yep. Does that help? Yep.
The assessment, does it have to be specific to your qualification, or does it have to be specific to what's on the video or that sense? Like people have been in different kind of stages, you know.
Yeah.
Some people might have been years before, some people it's just months before.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for?
We're looking for the standard that's on the videos then. Yes. Yes, yep. Okay, so we're looking for people to be prepared to reach that standard. That is now. Do you mean time-wise, as in?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, is that okay? Cool. Great, no bother. Anything else? Cool. After all of those steps, next thing is course allocation. This will be organised by recruitment and agreed with division. They will be given up to 50 spaces per cohort, and they will come to some sort of agreement around who gets released where. I'm assuming they won't try and get 50 students from West area all in the one cohort, so they'll try and spread them out across the year, and yeah, work out who can be released and who's ready to come on the course and all of these things. If I can just point out the further information, so there is a button on the front page with the application link. If you're wanting some questions answered about the application process, and really that's probably a Heather thing around the VQ thing, but I'll do that in the meantime. So Heather Watson for North and East, are you all from West area? Yes, and Sheila Park for West area. Their email addresses are there, and this video will go on AtSAS before the end of this week. But their information is on the application page too. If you've got any specific questions related to the course, you're very welcome to get in touch with me, and I'm happy to answer anything that comes up. And do you have any questions? I know we've managed to get a few in there in the meantime, but anything else?
After the end date, so the 1st of November is when it closed, how soon would we expect to hear, like that, if you've been shortlisted?
Within a few weeks, unless you're a student, in which case that'll be totally different. Yep. So we're aiming to have these shortlistings ready to go by that first OSCE date on the 22nd of November. But obviously that depends on what else we've got going on that week. But yeah, we would aim to have it out then. All right. Cool.
Do you have any idea if you're a student, for example? How long will it take?
If you're a student, that slide you missed, and I'll chat to you at the end about that. I'll go back over the bits you missed. All right. No, it's okay. Don't worry. No, it's totally fine. Anything else?
After you do the OSCE,
Yep.
will they all be this year, or will they go into the start of the
Yep,
following year?
they
as
go
well?
into the start of the following year. Yep. Yes.
And once will you find on that day? Is that pass or fail on
Yes.
that day?
Yep.
And then what's the kind of time frame when you then know your course dates? Is there a wee delay between that, or?
It depends on how recruitment decide to deal with it. I don't know if they'll get a batch of passes and then allocate them, or if they'll do it on a day-to-day basis. I'm not sure. That was a good point just to pick up around the OSCEs though, which is that you will know on the day. If it's the first time you failed it, you just book yourself onto another OSCE slot when you feel ready, based on the feedback you get, and you resit it. If you have 2 attempts at it and don't pass it, then you wait until next year, so you basically reapply again the following year. Okay, so 2 attempts and that's it.
So there would be another application for next year?
Yes,
Another opportunity to apply?
yes, yes.
And that was part of Slice One, I think.
Sorry?
That was part of Slice One.
No, it wasn't. It was not. No, you're right. It was not. So these are only for the 2020 cohorts. HCPC's closing point for the DIP programme is the 31st of August 2021, and so we are aiming to have at least a couple of cohorts started in 2021 before that deadline happens. So yeah, there should be another application process unless I don't know what happens. I don't know.
Okay. So as a student, if I'm writing about an application form about reflection, do you want me to obviously write about a time of reflection, or do you want me to write my understanding of reflection, or like certain models? Do you get what I mean if you're talking about like CPD for students?
So students, regardless of whether they're a student or a qualified member of staff, is the same HCPC criteria we're looking for. So your statement should still be about times that you reflected on something, and this is what happened from it. Yeah.
Not necessarily an example of it.
Yes. Yeah. An
Right,
example
so
of
you
it.
don't want to
Yes.
write-
Yeah.
Okay.
Just when you're saying it's based on the HCPC guide, do you want us to mark in the statement the standards that it meets, or just kind of?
You can if you like. There's no, we've tried not to be too clear on it because HCPC aren't specific about it. They don't have a format, so you're welcome to do whatever you feel will meet those criteria on the page. That's absolutely fine. Yep. Okay. Cool. Great. That's us then. Thank you very much. Yep, they'll be on the video on ATSAS, so yes, they will be. Okay. Most of that information is on in among all of the different places on ATSAS. I guess now that you've been here, you've got a bit of an idea about what's happening next, starting to have some thoughts about whether it's for you or not, then I said or not and then looked directly at you. I was trying really hard not to look at anyone, I'm sorry, I didn't, that was nothing, right? So, sorry. So, once you've done all that, go and have a look at all of the guidance, just download everything so you've got it all there because there's loads of stuff there. We've tried to be really clear on the guidance this year because the whole point is that it's about people starting to use their skills that they will be using once they're here, and part of that is about being able to access the information. So go on and have a look, and if you've got any questions, please just get in touch. All right.